A recap of Memories of Ice by Steven Erikson, Malazan Book of the Fallen, Book 3. Prologue. The prologue opens with a flashback to the 33rd Jag Hut War when an Amass bonecaster saves 2 Jag Hut children from being killed by an Amass hunting group by sending them into what she believes to be a gate to Amtos Felix. The scene then shifts to 3 years after the fall of the crippled god when 3 elder gods converge on Collier to punish him for his crimes. Collier curses each one in return for being cursed by them. A wounded Tog watches from afar. Part 1. The Spark and the Ashes. Tog the Younger awakens in Morn and meets Onos Tulin, who is waiting on Lady Envy. She arrives and the 3 decide to travel north to learn more about the rent found in Morn. Lady Envy travels with a dog named Gareth, an eye named Baeljag, and 3 Segula warriors, Mach, Thuril, and Senna. Mach is ranked highly amongst the Segula, and leads a punitive army against the Panyan Seer. On the way, Tog and Tul bond over making arrows. Lady Envy tries to flirt with Tog, much to his dismay, and the Segula excluding Mach attempt to challenge Tul to single combat. Both are defeated. Gruntle is a Daru caravan guard with his friends Harlow and Stani Manakis. They are escorting a mysterious figure named Carolee to Kapustin. On the way they meet 2 sorcerers named Bauchelane and Corbel Broach who say they're traveling to Kapustin on a whim. Another one of Gruntle's friends, Björk, claims that they're responsible for several murders in Daruhistan, and decides to join their caravan as a guard while seeking to kill them or die trying. On the way to Kapustin, they stop in Saltone where Carolee tries to bolster the defenses against the growing danger of the Panyan Seer through disinformation and propaganda. As they leave, they meet Hetan, Kafal, and Nitok, 3 Barghast warriors from the Whiteface clan who claim to be hunting demons. They decide to join forces for their mutual protection. Bauchelane and Corbel Broach, with the help of a Barghast shaman now confined to a stick snare, find Gruntle's caravan and warn them that the demons are coming. As they prepare for battle, Carolee determines that the demons are actually undead Cain Malkel hunters, things not seen on the earth for thousands of years. In the ensuing battle, Harlow and Gruntle are struck down. The child born from the efforts of Krull, Pranchol, and Krupp during Gardens of the Moon, is now living amongst the Rivi. She is named Silverfox, has grown at an incredibly fast rate. She appears to be 10 years old despite only being a few months since her mother, a Rivi woman now known only as the Maib, gave birth to her. Silverfox does not know that her rapid growth is powered by stealing her mother's youth. The young girl reveals that within her are the reborn souls of both Tattersail and Night Chill, though their disparate personalities take turns coming to the forefront. Silverfox claims to be a flesh and blood bonecaster of the clan Amass, and says she will summon them to help with the war against the Panyan Daman. Collier declares her to be evil and admonishes all to kill her before she becomes too powerful and betrays them all. The armies of Dujek One Arm and Kaladin Brood meet, and their alliance is solidified. It is determined that their first stop should be Kapustin to relieve the Grey Swords and their ultimate destination should be Coral to fight the Panyan Daman at its home base. Rumors are passed around that the Panyan Daman uses a horde of starving peasants known as the Teniskauri who have perpetrated horrible crimes, cannibalism being the least of these. The Council of Daruhistan arrives, including Kal, Murillo, Astrasian Darl, and Krupp who promised to aid the armies by providing supply lines and material through the Trigol Trade Guild. Whiskey Jack, still nursing a badly healed leg after the fate, decides to stand in defense of Silverfox along with Corlett, Animander Rake's second in command. Janos Paran, now captain of the Bridge Burners, has been feeling ill and suffering from nightmare visions since his contact with the Hounds of Shadow and the events of the fate in Daruhistan. Mallet and Quick Ben determine that he is on the cusp of ascendancy, and his resistance to it is causing him to feel sick. Silverfox declares him to be a new, unaligned card in the deck of dragons, the master of the deck. A table made by the Bridge Burners specifically for the deck of dragons is discovered in Kaladin Brood's possession with Paran's face painted on it. Upon seeing it, Paran is transported to the Finnis house from where he travels to the Beast Hold and finds 2 empty thrones. He also sees that Byrne is wounded with a shrunken, hooded figure chained to the wound. Silverfox says that a war has begun against the Warrens themselves and that Paran is essential to winning this war. Paran is certain he'll fail. Quick Ben, upon meeting the crippled god, determines that he has poisoned Byrne. Visiting a witch of Tenny's, he discovers that Byrne sleeps to dream, and that her dreams have become fevered. He realizes that if Byrne dies, all of humanity will be in danger. He vows to save Byrne and find a way to thwart the crippled god. The witch promises to help. We learn through Animander Rake and Kaladin Brood that they, along with other ascendants, were responsible for the chaining, thinking it was the only feasible solution at the time. Both the crippled god and the sorcerers of the Panyan Daman used the Warren of Chaos. Rake doesn't think this is a coincidence. If Byrne dies, they realize, her Warren will be the pathway to the other Warrens, and the crippled god will destroy them and as a result, destroy all magic. The destruction, Brood suggests, won't stop there. Part 2 Hearthstone. In the city of Kapustin, Karnatas, Brukalian, and Itkovian lead the Grey Swords in the city's defense against the Panyan Daman. They are employed by Prince Jalarkin, who is struggling with the political maneuvering of the Masked Council, a group of priests who wear the visages of various elder gods and ascendants. Itkovian takes a regiment of Grey Swords outside of Kapustin where they are attacked by undead Kel hunters, but meet with Pranchol and the Tlan Amas. The Tlan Amas offer aid against the Kane Shemal, but not against the human Panyan armies. Itkovian also encounters Gruntel's caravan along with Bochalane and Corbel Broach, and Hetan and Kafal. Harlow and Nitak died during the battle with the Kel hunters. The Grey Swords take them all to Kapustin. Shortly afterwards, the Panyan troops surround Kapustin, including 100,000 Tenaskauri, the starving peasant army. Hetan and Kafal approach the Masked Council with demands that the remains of the founding families of the Barghast be turned over to them. The council accedes, and the elder Barghast spirits are awakened. Gruntel is drinking heavily after learning of Harlow's death, but snaps out of it thanks to Biuk and Stani. Stani is staying with the Grey Swords, and has pledged loyalty to Carolee. Biuk continues to stay with Bochalane and Corbel Broach, who have purchased a manor in Kapustin. Biuk claims he stays because he needs to stop them. Broach has resumed murdering citizens. Carolee gives Biuk a small clay bird to help him. Quick Ben wanders the Warrens, tasting a new foulness affecting them. Wandering to Hood's realm, he meets Talamandas, a stick snare with the soul of one of the first founders of the Barghast. He frees Talamandas after learning that the Barghast were once Tlan Amas who lived together with the Thelamin Tablakai. Later, Quick Ben meets up with Ansi's squad who are waiting for him as the rest of the bridge burners meet with Humbral Tor and the white-faced Barghast. Quick Ben is grabbed by the Barghast spirits who, with Talamandas as their spokesperson, tell him they need to make contact with the Barghast shouldermen and convince them to go to Kapustin where their remains are located. Quick Ben suggests channeling their power through Mallet, who is en route to the white-faced encampment. The bridge burners, led by Janoz Paran, all go to meet with the white-faced Barghast to negotiate an alliance against the Panyan Daman. Trotz claims to have blood ties to the first families, and fights a duel against one of Humbral Tor's sons. Trotz kills the boy, but is mortally wounded in the process. Mallet arrives in time to heal him, and is saved from the fatal poisoning of his warren when the Barghast spirits intervene. Quick Ben arrives soon after, and he and Paran meet with Humbral Tor, allowing the Barghast spirits to be felt in the White-Face clan for the first time. Didrik Onurm's army along with Kaladin Brood's host march slowly to Kapustin, with the Trigal Trade Guild supplying them. Silverfox now appears to be a teenager, while the Mibe is racked with pain from old age. Krupp, Corlett, and Whiskey Jack all attempt to console the Mibe, but she refuses their comfort, and is further tormented by dreams of faceless menaces. Corlett and Whiskey Jack become lovers. Collier accepts an offer to become the High King in the House of Chains in exchange for an opportunity to kill Silverfox. Tok the Younger and Tool deepen their friendship, while making arrows and blades from stone. When Tok sees a vision of Baaljag's history as an eye, Tool gives him an Amas name, Arrowfail. Tok also witnesses Trake's death, and meets with Kileva, who intends to go to Coral, not to answer Silverfox's summons, but to complete unfinished business. The rivalry between Tool and Mok intensifies when Tool sees Mok dismantle a Kel hunter with ease. Lady Envy meets with Krull, who reveals that the Warrens all feed on his blood, and that the crippled god is poisoning him, and he needs Envy's help in bringing Tak and the Segula into the heart of the Panyan Seer's territory. Upon entering the Seer's territory, Tak abandons his party and joins the Teniscauri, hoping they'll meet up with the Malazans. Weeks later, starved and delirious, he is summoned by the Panyan Seer and sees the corpse of an old man being animated by a Jaghut who is further empowered by grey tendrils of power reaching down. When he's given another vision of his party through Baljag's eyes, the Seer casts him into a prison with the Cain Mal matron that once dwelt in the Rent at Morn. He is kept alive with sorcery while the matron, insane from pain and grief at the loss of her children, breaks his bones over and over in her embrace. Part 3, Kapustin. Tak the Younger is being held in the fortress city of Outlook, locked in the matron's embrace. He is now deformed and losing his mind, but hears news of the Panyans fighting a costly war to the south as Lady Envy's party makes its way towards the Seer. Eventually, Tool, Gareth, and Baljag break into Outlook, forcing the Seer to flee with Tak and the matron to Coral. When he sleeps, he dreams of running with a pack of wolves, seeking a quarry to deliver something, and Tak realizes that the winter god Tog resides within him. He also learns that Baljag is the physical manifestation of Fandere. The millennia of separation between Fandere and Tog feeds her desperate chase. Tak is shown the Bay of Coral and meets a Seerdaman who shows him unexpected kindness. The city of Kapustin is besieged by the Panyan Daman, who attack with 80,000 soldiers and nearly 300,000 Teniscauri. Ikovian leads the Grey Swords in defense of the city using a strategy of controlled withdrawal, which initially devastates the attackers. Outnumbered as they are, however, the defense begins to crumble. Gruntle, at first uninterested in fighting, finds Stani Manakis, who was raped by a Seerdaman. An inexplicable change comes over him, and he rallies several camps and bolsters the Grey Swords' defense, essentially saving the city. The Teniscauri attack, and overrun the city by sheer weight of numbers. Gruntle has been fighting with an impromptu militia in a tenement building. Each member of his militia, including Gruntle, is magically bedecked with tiger stripes, and begin communicating without words. Itkovian makes the observation that Trake walks in Gruntle's shadow. Itkovian feels Fëanor waning in power, and has a crisis of faith. Carolee enters the masked council, demanding to be given a place on the council as Rathkrull, and protects the thrall by working with the Barghast. Rathfëanor, having made a deal with the Panyan Daman, summons Berkelion to protect him. Berkelion is killed by Seerdaman on his way to the thrall, and Karnatas dies shortly after. Itkovian promises revenge for Rathfëanor's betrayal. He takes the remaining Grey Swords to Prince Jalarkan's palace where he meets Anaster, the leader of the Teniscauri, and finds that Jalarkan is dead, having been eaten by them. As the Shield Anvil, Itkovian offers to take Anaster's despair from him, which causes Anaster to flee in terror. The white-faced Barghast and the bridge burners arrive at Kapustin and see the city overrun and burning. Paran takes the bridge burners in first, where he meets Gruntle, who is now Trake's mortal sword. The next day, the white-faced successfully drive the Panyan Daman out of the city into the path of the coming army led by Dujek and Brood. Paran sees a vision of Fëanor being pulled into the mortal world and is told by Nightchill about the coming war with the crippled god. Paran accepts his role as master of the deck, and accompanies Gruntle to the thrall where they meet Itkovian. Itkovian knows that Fëanor has been replaced by Trake, but refuses to give up his oath. He ritually severs Rathfëanor's hands and spiritually takes his grief from him, taking on the souls of Kapustin's dead with it. This momentarily kills him, but Paran brings him back to life. Buke stays on as guard to Bauchelain and Corbel Broach, enrolling the help of Cappan citizens to curtail Corbel Broach's murders. The clay bird Carolee gave him changed him into a soul-taken sparrow hawk, which he uses to spy on Bauchelain and Corbel Broach, who make an abortive attempt to kidnap Anaster. When the battle is done, Buke chooses to remain a sparrow hawk for good, and flies away from the burning city. The Maib has grown so old she can no longer walk. When she sleeps, she dreams of being chased by wolves, and nearly caught before awakening each time. Kaal and Murillo, offended by how she has been cast aside and confined to a wagon, decide to steal her away when they reach Kapustin with the hopes of finding a priest who will grant her a dignified end. Dijik and Brood's collective army march on towards Kapustin. Silver Fox summons the Clan I, which causes tensions to rise given her ambivalence towards the involvement of the Clan Amass in the war with the Panyans. It is discussed amongst the group that the Panyan seer is probably a Jag Hut tyrant working with a living Kane Chamal matron, and that he is most likely a pawn of the crippled god. When Krupp boasts that he can protect everyone from the crippled god, Kaladin Brood strikes him with Byrne's hammer. Despite the ensuing earthquake, Krupp is unharmed, proving to all he has the protection of an elder god. Whiskey Jack and Dijik agree to remain focused on the Panyan seer and allow the various ascendants to deal with the crippled god. Upon meeting the Panyan forces outside of Kapustin, Brood discovers that the outlawry proclamation was false in order to gain an alliance with Brood and the rest. Animander Rake says he knew about this already, but chose to ally with the Malazans because they were the only force interested in seeing peace brought to the Panyan lands. Rake uses his Eliant form to scare the Teniskauri into surrendering, and Anaster is taken hostage. The white-faced Barghast decide to accompany the army to see the Panyan seer killed. The Grey Swords, now sworn to Tog and Fandere, elect to come as well, as does Gruntle's militia. They decide to split their forces and meet up at Coral, which appears to be where the final battle will be fought. The second gathering of the Clan Amass takes place. Silver Fox seeks to give the undead warriors a new enemy to fight, but they instead ask to be released from the ritual. Silver Fox accuses them of abandoning her, and refuses to release even the Clan I. Quick Ben, aided by Talamandas, is given the protection of the Barghast gods to use his warrens without being affected by the crippled god's poison. He is told by Hood that Piran, as the master of the deck, has the ability to deny the crippled god legitimacy in the deck of dragons. Piran thinks that legitimizing the House of Chains will bind the crippled god into playing by the same rules as the rest of the pantheon. Envy, the Segula Baaljag, and Gareth are fighting through Amtos Felak to find Tok the Younger and the Panyan seer. As they cross a sea festooned with icebergs, they run across a female Clan Amass named Lanistog, who is answering Silver Fox's summons with news of two nations of Clan Amass that have been all but wiped out during a war with humans. Part 4: Memories of Ice. The armies against the seer split, with the Barghast and the Malazans traveling to Seta, and the Teast Andii and Brood's forces going to Lest. They plan to meet up in Maurik, but Dijik and Whiskey Jack divide their forces further, sending the bridge burners and half the army directly to Coral. Their plan is to disrupt any ambushes the seer has in place for Brood's forces. This causes some tension when Brood finds out, Collier throwing venomous accusations of falsehood from the beginning. Along the way, tensions rise further when Corlett and the Great Ravens declare they are unable to reach Animander Rake. Upon reaching Maurik, Whiskey Jack volunteers to move at a grueling pace in order to support Dijik's preemptive strike. Corlett, her brother Orfantal, and Collier all accompany him. Before separating, the Grey Swords take Anaster from the custody of the Malazans, and the shield anvil, Velbara, takes his grief away from him, leaving him an empty shell. The bridge burners move at night by Coral directly to Coral. Piran makes Picker a lieutenant, and puts her in charge of the bridge burners in the event of his absence. Twist approaches Piran, asking about the Barghast gods, and tells him that the Morinth and the Barghast divided after the Morinth made peace with their lifelong enemy, the Teast Eater. Along the way, the Black Morinth find a dead Teast Eater which appears to have been thrown directly into a deep-sea trench near Coral Bay called Ortnal's Cut. Quick Ben and the Black Morinth posit that the Teast Eater are seeking the true throne of Shadow. Piran, using his new abilities as Master of the Deck, finds the throne of Shadow, which warns him that the Teast Eater have a mad emperor who seeks to kill Mother Dark. Piran tries to travel to Animander Rake, but finds himself inside Dragnapur. He meets Draconus, who explains that Dragnapur was originally a method for Dark to protect itself from chaos. Piran can see a massive storm of chaotic magic in the distance advancing toward the wagon. Draconus says that Rake must send more souls to pull the wagon faster, but the sword must inevitably be broken. Piran tries to find Rake, but passes out when he feels a crushing oblivion. He awakens and tells Quick Ben that Rake is gone. Upon reaching Coral, the bridge burners destroy a whole company of Panion troops. 30,000 Panion troops are in turn arrayed outside the city. Dujek then arrives with 6,000 troops. A pitched battle is fought with the Malazans gaining the upper hand thanks to Quick Ben's magic, the Morinth munitions, and Piran's skills as the master of the deck. The decision is made to enter the city and make for the central keep. The bridge burners are sent in first to blow the walls and to cripple the seer's force of ensorcelled condors. When they enter, they find the keep filled with Cain Shamal Kel hunters. As Dujek's main force arrives, the keep blows, and Picker leads the bridge burners in distracting the Kel hunters. This proves to be a deadly choice, and many of the bridge burners die in the ensuing battle. Piran and Quick Ben position themselves on the roof of the keep. Tool arrives and the bridge burners follow him inside the keep. Inside the keep, Picker meets Lady Envy, who has arrived with Lanistog, Baaljag, and the Segula. The bridge burners suffer grievous losses, and only 6 leave the keep alive. Whiskey Jack and Corlett arrive with the exhausted Malazan troops and the White Face and Ilger's Barghast. They face a force of 800 Cain Chamal. Silverfox suddenly appears with the clan en masse. Collier in league with the crippled god attacks Corlett and Artanthos, and makes an attempt to kill Silverfox. However, Whiskey Jack successfully stops Collier's attack at the cost of his own life. Collier is finally driven back by Artanthos, who was really Tashrin in disguise. The Malazan troops are staggered by the loss of their commander, and Corlett is in shock with grief. Gruntle, Stani, Itkovian, the Grey Swords, and Trake's legion arrive shortly after Whiskey Jack's death, and Itkovian is drawn to the clan en masse. To Silverfox's horror, he tells them that he would embrace them and take their pain. As one, they all kneel, ignoring the battle. As a violent storm forms in the sky over Coral, Gruntle's company takes the form of a massive, soul-taken tiger, and joins the Grey Swords in a direct assault against the Cain Shamal. The Teast Andii and Tashrin support them with sorcery. Brood arrives shortly afterward, and demands that Corlett call Animander Rake. Corlett says that Rake is dead, and Brood raises Byrne's hammer, ready to end everything to destroy the seer. In Capustan, Kal and Murillo take the Maid into the Temple of Hood. The unnamed warrior constructs a sarcophagus for her to be placed in. The two Daris are baffled and afraid, especially when Krull, an elder god known for his blood rites, enters the temple. Krull tells Kal and Murillo that the Maid's dreams will become a new world, one where she will be young again. Tok the Younger, broken both physically and mentally, is still held by the seer. He feels the spirit of Tog struggling to be free of his body. The Seerdaman who showed him kindness earlier places him outside the reach of the matron, and gives him food and water. When the siege is in full effect, Tok watches the seer create a fist using power drawn from the matron, then leave. The sounds of battle rage around him, and Tool enters the room. He picks Tok up, calling him Aerofail once again, and begins taking him from the compound. They are stopped by Mach, who challenges Tool. Tok watches the duel, and manages to stand up and kill himself by falling on a piece of rubble. Tog's howl is heard throughout the city. Tool is bested by the Segula III, but Kileva saves him by magically subduing Mach. She stays killing him after Tool asks her not to. Lanistog meets them and they go to meet Silverfox. Baaljag arrives and Kileva sends her into the Warren of Telan to meet her mate. As Tog howls, the Tlanai rise and slaughter the Cain Chamal. Brood lowers his hammer. While on the roof of the keep, Quick Ben senses Curled Galine and flies himself and Piran onto a balcony facing the bay. They see the seer with his finist and the matron. The storm breaks up, revealing clear skies, but the ice on the bay explodes and Moon's spawn erupts from the water. Piran realizes Animander Rake had hidden the floating mountain in Ortnal's Cut, and it descends onto Coral with a full unveiling of Curled Galine. Moon's spawn crashes into the keep, killing the matron. Kileva enters, and tries to attack the seer, but Quick Ben stops her, then tackles the seer. He takes Piran and the seer with him through a warren and Kileva follows. The keep is utterly destroyed by Moon's spawn, which covers Coral in a gloom that will linger. In his spiritual embrace, Ikovian realizes that the clan en masse remember their past lives. The ritual of Talan has forced them to walk as unfeeling revenants for 300,000 years with those memories still intact. The heartbreak and loss threaten to overwhelm him, but Pran Chol tells him of a place where he can take the memories. Itkovian finds himself in a dream world, and Pran Chol tells him the memories will return life to the realm. The memories fall to the land like a hailstorm, and Itkovian asks to take away the grief, sorrow, and pain of the Tlan en masse. They ask him why, but he doesn't have an answer, only talking of compassion freely given. When their pain settles on him, he dies. Inside the dream world, the Maid moves towards the cage of bones where she hears a beast's agonized howling. The memories of the Tlan en masse fall to the ground as a storm of ice, and Krupp helps her to the cage and begs her to touch it. As she touches it, Tok dies and Tog bursts into life. His triumphant howl is met by that of the Tlan I. The Maid passes out. Tog is joined by Fanderay and they run toward their thrones. Silver Fox walks in the Tlan dream world and meets the Rivi spirits. Her plans to use the dream world to return her mother to youth are all in ruins after Itkovian embraced the Tlan en masse. She is so bitter with the sense of failure that when the Rivi spirits tell her she can still save her mother, she turns away in shame instead of talking to her. Tool and Lannis Tog meet Silver Fox, and Tool asks her to return the eye to life. She does, and Tool asks her to return him to life as well. She does. Lannis Tog then takes Silver Fox to the rest of the Tlan en masse, and she offers to undo the ritual of Talan. They say not yet, speaking of plans to accompany Lannis Tog to rescue their kin trapped in the far-off war. Silver Fox asks to accompany them. Pran Chol tells her that Itkovian's gift will allow them to return to their memories when the ritual is eventually undone, something they didn't expect. The Maib awakens and sees the Rivi spirits, Tog, Fanderay, and the Tlan I. The memories of the Tlan en masse have brought unexpected life to the realm, and the Maib will live, young and undying. Tog asks her to return Tok's soul to the mortal realm. Tok wakes up in the body of Anister, and is made the mortal sword of Tog and Fanderay. He meets Gruntle and the two become fast friends, both uneasy with their new titles. The newly mortal Tool also greets Tok, but doesn't reveal his identity. The battle ended, 800 of Onurm's hosts survive. The Teast and I have decided to remain in Coral. Kaladin Brood is willing to give the Malazans all they want after their sacrifice. Animander Rake offers to let Whiskey Jack and the bridge burners to be interred in the now dying moon's spawn. Dijak and Picker, in Paran's absence, accept this. Quick Ben, Paran, Kileva, Talamandas, and the seer travel to Morn, where we learn that the seer was one of the Jag Hut children Kileva sent into the rent before the ritual of Talan. Quick Ben says that they can use the Finnis to seal the rent and save the seer's sister who is still trapped within the rent. The seer and his sister can live in Burn's realm where they can unveil Amtos Felak without the Tlan en masse sensing them. The ice and freezing temperatures of Amtos Felak will slow the crippled god's poison as well. They travel to the place where Quick Ben first learned of Burn's poisoning, and they meet the Witch of Tennies who plans on staying with the seer to keep an eye on him. Quick Ben remarks on how Burn's realm is now home to a new warren, full of memories of ice. Paran and Quick Ben return to the Malazans, and visit Moon's spawn to see the final resting place of Whiskey Jack and the bridge burners. Paran blesses them, and a mysterious light plays on their coffins as he leaves. Itkovian's funeral begins as a modest affair, but is eventually attended by every group that participated in the battle. The Tlan en masse come and each drops a small gift upon Itkovian's gravesite. The gifts form a barrow invested with Talan sorcery, and will never fall apart. Dijak tells Paran and the 6 remaining bridge burners that he's giving them back pay for an entire company, enough to allow each of them to retire in leisure. He's going to make a report that every last bridge burner died, though Quick Ben is going to be made a high mage. Dijak calls Paran a bridge burner for the first time. Hetan and Kafal leave with the rest of the Barghast and run into the now mortal Tool and Kileva. Hetan and Tool become lovers. Epilogue. Paran moves into the Finnis house where Reyes still dwells. The 6 surviving bridge burners, Picker, Blend, Ansi, Mallet, Spindle, and Blue Pearl, have purchased a temple to Krull in Daruhistan and turned it into a tavern. The imperial historian Diker, having been revived after the events of Deadhouse Gates, has been staying with them, but not speaking. One night, with Perron, Call, Murillo, Krupp, and Barrack in attendance, Diker finally breaks his silence, and begins telling the bridge burners the story of Colton and the chain of dogs. That was a recap of Memories of Ice by Steven Erikson, Malazan Book of the Fallen, Book 3.